Hi everybody, I'm Mars Girl.
I'm Josh Knight the First.
So, we actually saw this film a few days ago, but we did see Justice League, and I know...
Full-blown Justice League.
Yeah, I know that, this is a few days late, but because we had been talking about Justice League so very much on the show, I think it was important that we did get around to discussing this.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, we've just been talking it up so much in not a fantastic way.
No.
However, there are both good and bad things to say about this movie, some of which is a little surprising and some of which is not surprising in the slightest.
At all.
I'm going to lead off by saying it's still not the best DC film. I still feel like Wonder Woman is easily
No, Wonder Woman easily
there.
got that, but I think it's fair enough to say that it's not as abysmal as Batman vs. Superman was, which, as we were saying over the last couple of days, isn't hard to achieve.
No, it's not. So that having been said, being better than Batman v Superman is like a low bar to cross. You're like stepping over a creek. You're not swimming across a river, you know?
Now, the swimming across the river part, that's more in terms of what the overall movie tried to achieve. Yeah, granted, I guess we'll do it where a couple of things we'll say right here are non-spoiler, and then we'll say, hey, stop here, and then we'll get into the spoilery stuff.
Sure.
So, non-spoilery, yes, it wasn't hard to be better than Batman vs. Superman. Are there problems? Hell yes, there are. Are there some good moments? Yes, absolutely there are. I think what's been hard, talking with people, seeing people's reactions over the last couple of days, is people think you have to be very stoutly one direction or the other. Either you hated it or you absolutely loved it.
No, I absolutely do not think so. I think this was a very mediocre film, and I think it's thanks to them realizing they done goofed before. I think it's thanks to them having done reshoots, but the reshoots were not enough to save it. In fact, they could have possibly stood to do more reshoots. Heck, let's just shoot the whole movie, like, all over again.
Well, from what we were told, that's essentially what happened. We got this mediocre film because of those reshoots.
Right.
Because they realized, because of the backlash from Batman vs. Superman, because of the success of Wonder Woman, that they had to try and course correct. And I can at least say you can see them trying. Now, whether or not they succeed, that's left up to the individual viewer. But you can see that they understood there was something wrong.
It's also up to the box office, too, because if this is even to continue, if they're going to be satisfied after, this weekend has just ended, and going into the next weekend, if they're satisfied monetarily, then we'll get to keep seeing DC films, and if not, I think they're going to have to go back to the drawing board a little bit, because I think they know exactly what people want now, and the audience is responding in accord with that.
And the thing about it is the audience is showing both ways. Obviously, the critics are panning the movie mostly outright, whereas fans are still saying, no, we wanted to see this movie. We wanted to see this group come together in whatever form. But at the same time, there are a lot of people who are hardline, no, I know it's a mediocre film, I'm not going to attribute any money to this box office so that I can send a message there with my pocketbook, which we totally understand. But again, like we've been saying, we've been talking about it for so long that it wouldn't make sense for us not to say anything or not to go see it.
I'll say that one thing that I don't think is especially spoilerish is that DC, this was even one of the worst parts of Wonder Woman, if I'm to be fair, they can't do CG. I do not know what the issue is, but this isn't news, okay? If you've seen any other DC film, you know exactly the caliber of CG that we're talking about. And maybe we'll get into some specific CG issues here in a few more minutes.
Well, I don't think it's incredibly spoilerish, but something we said during one of the major fight scenes in the movie is we pretty much said in unison, oh my god, this looks just like Injustice.
It does. It looks like it came out of one of the Injustice games. And I know a lot of people are like, that they don't really like the critique of this looks like a video game, but this specifically looked like a specific video game, and in some cases it looked to me like Final Fantasy XIV. It just, oh my god, it looked like specific games, you know?
Because the idea is, if you like video games, that's one thing, but you're not here to see a video game or a video game movie, you're here to see a movie. And my big thing when I'm talking about anything is about suspension of disbelief. If I can very clearly see, like we were seeing it throughout all of these movies, okay, you're a person, and now you're CG. Then you're not trying to suspend disbelief. I can see where technology took over. And the idea is to kind of try and achieve that uncanny valley of, okay, I can't tell where one ends and the other begins. Here, there's such evidence of a rush job to try and change things and correct things that you can tell where they stopped short to make those seams less noticeable.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as, like, say, characterization goes, some problems carry over from previous DC movies, specifically from Batman vs. Superman and Man of Steel.
You keep saying versus. I don't remember there being a versus in that
Batman
title.
Not quite Justice League.
Not quite
what we've referred to it before. I can say, without getting spoilery, I think Barry Allen was easy to enjoy.
Sure.
Cyborg needed a lot more.
He needed his own movie first.
He did. He absolutely
Real
did.
bad.
Same goes for Aquaman.
Mm-hmm.
Although he's, you know how I say with certain movies you hire that actor to be that actor. You don't hire Will Smith to play a character. You hire him to be Will Smith.
Right.
You don't hire Tom Cruise to play a character. You hire him to be Tom Cruise. That's kind of how I feel here. They did with Aquaman. They hired Jason Momoa to be Jason Momoa, and if you already like him, then you're pretty much going to be okay with this, and maybe you'll be more hopeful for his solo movie coming down the pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, he's just kind of there and is strong and didn't really use a lot of water power.
Yeah, not terribly much, and never spoke to fish. Never spoke to fish.
They get into some specifics on that, but it doesn't really add anything to the plot or even the character. Wonder Woman seems the least changed from previous films, although you can see the influences of Joss Whedon and Snyder on this.
However, yeah, because I feel like they continue to dress her slightly more in a sexy edge in this, and that kind of bothered me a little bit. And they took a lot of liberties with camera shots around her body, and that bothered me like a whole lot. Not to mention all the rest of the Amazons being dressed totally differently from the way they looked in Wonder Woman. And
yeah, because that's just a matter of
quite a bit.
continuity.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to keep things together, show me that there's some holdover between the other movies. Not, okay, this was definitely made by somebody who had more sense for costuming, and this one not so much.
Right, exactly.
Batman, he was Batman in parts, but he wasn't the complete Batman I was hoping for.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the same way I felt in Not Quite Justice League, in Batman v Superman, where there were these moments where, like, yeah, I can see the Batman you can be, but then you gotta work around all this other stuff.
Yeah, but he was especially bad in Batman v Superman. Here it was like, you just didn't go all the way there. You cut out some of the stupid, but...
Which was good.
Yeah, which was good, but just didn't... He had some of the worst clunky CG out of the whole movie, too. I almost never believed that when he was doing Batman action that was an actual human being Batman.
Which is sad, because in some of the behind-the-scenes footage that we've seen Ben Affleck hooked up to the wire work. Like, he's there doing jumps and things like that, or his stunt guy, but they covered it up so much, it's hard to know or
and they're
even
almost
care.
never on a real set.
No,
Hardly ever
no, this
are
is
they.
very, like, almost...
This is like an 85%...
Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, like an 85% green screen movie. It was... so bothered by it.
And then Superman, I actually don't think I had any problems with his specific characterization for the most part.
If they gave out awards for most improved character over an arc of movies, it would go to Superman. Too bad he's still Clark Man.
Which we'll get into,
Mm-hmm.
but otherwise, I can safely say this is the Superman that people were hoping for over the last two movies. He gets there. It took a long time.
It shouldn't have taken 3 films, but it did.
And it shouldn't be as clunky as it was, but at least people are breathing a sigh of relief, and I think that more than anything is why people are seeing their way to giving this like a passing grade, because it's like, okay, you finally did something right. Like, we gave you the C- for effort, you at least pass.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, you're not getting honors or anything like that, but you passed. You get to go to the next grade. And the thing about it that we've seen a lot of, just talking with people who've seen the movie, people in the industry, just people online, is we try to keep this mindset of don't try to tell me about the movie you wish you saw. Don't try to tell me about the movie you hope comes after this. Because we can have those conversations, but what we're talking about is the 2 hours of footage that DC and Warner Brothers gave us, and that's what we're talking about. Not trying to grade it on some sort of, lofty ideal this, or this is what it can be, or this is what they meant. No, I can see what they meant because they've put out a movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's pretty fair for right now to cut off for non-spoiler.
I would say so, yes.
So let's go ahead and get into the nitty-gritty.
Okay.
First and foremost, we've been talking about the CG here. So it wasn't made a secret that they had to go back and do reshoots with Henry Cavill and digitize or digitally remove his mustache because he's contractually obligated to keep it for the next Mission Impossible movie. the problem with that is, at some points he looked like the annoying orange.
He's got uncanny valley upper lip. It's so weird, because it wants to move, but it's just barely kind of staying still where it is, and it's kind of like being peeled back, and I'm just, oh, what?
And the thing is, there's a lot of close-ups of him,
yeah.
So like it's really apparent. Like,
oh, and when he had to go in for a kiss too, that was
yeah.
real weird. It was so weird. and you know, we got Lois Lane still calling out Clark.
Oh my god, I will never. Okay, the two biggest problems for me in the movie that almost completely took me out of the movie is the fact that Aquaman, or Arthur Curry, completely outs Bruce in front of all these people.
Yeah.
Like, Bruce is trying to be covert, like, I need you to help me, we've got a problem. Their enemy's coming. And he's like, sorry, can't help you, Batman. And there's like 3 people within earshot. Like, what the hell is this? Like, I know you're up in like Scandinavia or something, but people will find out who Bruce Wayne is. Like,
right.
Try to protect the secret. And then it's the same complaint that we had in Man of Steel that we're having here, except people know who Superman is now. There are cops there looking at him resurrected, and Lois just runs up, Clark! Like, Snyder, do you understand the concept of secret identity? Obviously not, because you blew Batman's cover and Superman's cover.
Well, okay, let's take this back a step to Batman v Superman, where I feel like even with the additional scenes that got added in for the full extended version, you know, they tried to make it look more like Superman actually did Superman type stuff in Batman v Superman. I still don't think that those scenes were quite enough for him to not look like he was a potential threat to the planet. But everybody in this movie is talking about him like, oh, he was such a great man, and he was a savior, and the world needs Superman, and the team needs Superman, and
well,
like,
specifically Batman saying those lines, and I'm like, what
and
interaction?
what team needs Superman? This team does not know Superman. This team has never met Superman. Superman was dead before they ever met each other.
Well, it's specifically lines like, this team needs Superman, the world needs Superman, and this team needs Clark. Bruce only had one conversation with Clark, and it was very tenuous at best. And then at the end of the movie, they didn't spend any time together as Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent. It was Batman fighting Superman, then the Martha thing, and then now we're fighting together, and then you're dead. So, like, what are you basing this on?
Right.
Like, it'd be one thing if he spoke, because obviously he feels guilty. He's got survivor's guilt. Fine, I can understand that as character motivation. But beyond that, it's like, what movie, like, kind of the same thing we're saying to audiences, we have to say to Batman, what movie did you watch where you had this relationship with Clark where you cared so much about him? Oh, he's more human than I am.
How do you know that?
Yeah.
Like, you never knew that. You never knew that. Weren't you
didn't know the guy. You didn't even know he was Superman, alright?
Weren't you complaining for a while also about Martha Kent, about her makeup?
Yes, so, like, obviously over the last 2 movies, you know, Diane Lane's older, but she's not that old. They had to give her some wrinkles and gray hair and things like that. Here in this movie, they didn't do that? Like, Martha had a facelift or something in between Batman v Superman and Justice League, because she looks not too far off from Amy Adams as Lois. Like, she looks...
Yeah, in fact, Amy Adams as Lois, I was like, wow, you're old. Like, I feel like...
Did somebody sit in the wrong makeup chair? Is that what happened here? Like, I don't even...
Like, you could see a nice fold in her neck real hard, and, like, that's just her natural age and everything, but it did feel like, you women are the same age, and, like, that's her son, and you're dating him, and that's so weird.
Yeah, it really did make for a lot of sense on screen. So coming down to the villain of the movie, Steppenwolf, he's probably the most glaring error in the CG, because, like we were saying, he looked like he came out of, like, Lord of the Rings Online.
Final Fantasy 14, I'm telling you, man.
And, you know, you'll hear all the stories, oh, it was a rush job, they couldn't decide on the look, and this is what they came up with.
Sure looks like it, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, he looks like he could have been a cool character design for something, you know, but not this, and not the way they had to hurry up and get it out.
You can tell, like, because from everything that we're told, you know, DC saw a cut of it, it was deemed unwatchable, so they had to go back and course correct and refilm like 60 to 70% of this mofo. And it shows. That's the biggest thing. Like, you can give him credit for trying, you know, most improved, things like that, but you can tell where they cut corners, and definitely he's one of the biggest cut corners. Like, he's a whole corner unto himself. That goes for his CG, that goes for his characterization. All he's trying to do is take over Earth because. And you only get the one line about him saying, oh, I will ascend up to be one of the new gods. Can you tell us about the new gods? Would you like to go into the mythology there? Would you like to tell us more about Apocalypse?
It sort of felt like there almost should have been more of an attachment to the Amazons, and that he did have a little bit of a stint with them, but I don't know, it felt like Wonder Woman should have had a much deeper desire to kind of follow through, and that was just sort of never elaborated upon. Granted, she's the one who tells Batman this whole big old story about him, but at the same time, I don't know, it didn't feel like she needed this. She needed this for herself, or for her people, or whatever.
Well, see, because, like, everybody's supposed to have motivation for this, and really, that goes back to what we were saying about the Flash. The Flash has the most fleshed out motivation in that he feels like a loner and he wants to be around people. That's clear enough. They developed that, and I saw that through the character of Barry Allen, the way Ezra Miller played him. I'm perfectly fine. I will watch the next movie he's in.
You know what? I also feel like, even though we've got two different Flash actors, one for TV and one for film, it almost felt like they wanted you to rely on stories that you had heard from TV also. Well, which, I mean, they lined up, kinda. Like, they're okay, and so you've got a basic understanding of this character already if you've been watching TV the last couple of years, but...
Well, because the thing is, this isn't the same Barry Allen that we know on TV, whereas this Barry Allen, he's just barely going to become a criminologist. He's the Flash at the beginning of his career.
Yes, yes.
So kind of... But even then, that's different from Barry Allen in the show, because Barry Allen in the show was already a CSI investigator to begin with, whereas here he's going to become that. And there's a lot of that at the end of the movie, the setup for what will become. You know, Bruce having interaction with Clark, him helping Barry along with a letter of recommendation, all this stuff that you want to eventually see. And I think some of that is founded, like, yes, that's stuff we want to see, and that's definitely something that people want to show in a shared cinematic universe, but at the same time, it's a little misleading. Like, you showed that at the tail end to have the audience be like, hey, see, there's something good here. But no, it's teases. That's not a movie.
Right, I agree.
And when you get to that point, that's kind of what they gave us at the end of the last movie. Like, teases don't make a movie.
Right.
Even if you want to compare it to Marvel, which we're not trying to do, when you do the right tease, then yeah, you can build something around it. Here, it shouldn't be a tease. This is stuff we wanted to see last movie. That should have been in the movie.
Yeah.
Not just a little bit of, okay, here's the sprinkles you were hoping for. Okay, thanks, bye. Like, and...
Well, okay, how about these mid and end credit sequences? So,
well,
like,
okay,
Deathstroke showing up, which people flipped out at, and I understand. Like it was really impressive. His suit's really impressive.
It looks exactly like the Arkham Origins suit, which, like, you know, props for that. And then Lex finally is dressed like Lex.
He's still acting like a tool, but...
And then you want to tease, you know, the Legion of Doom or the Injustice League, whichever you want to call it. Like, that's cool and all, but you have to prove to me that he's worth tuning in for, because we haven't addressed... Like, this is the only time you see him in the movie, is that end teaser. And that doesn't... Like, you have to explain all of this bad behavior before, in terms of characterization. And then just having the Flash and Superman having the race, that's great.
Yeah,
I wish there was more of that, you know, more... just lighthearted stuff, but the thing about it is you can see them trying to pull, like, put watercolors on this gargoyle statue that they already made.
Right.
And you can only do that so much. Like, you can only cover up the gargoyle so much.
It's still going to be a gargoyle, it's just going to look fanciful.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what we got here, because the thing is, I think, and, you know, a lot of other people have said this, DC kind of shot them in the foot.
Shot themselves in the foot.
By making themselves stick to that 2-hour time limit, because this one was the one that needed to be 3 hours. This one needed the characterization being there and the fleshing out.
Especially out of Cyborg. Poor Cyborg. I really feel like they did him wrong. No, he was the worst CG in the movie, because he's nothing but CG. Even if this much of his face is not CG, everything else about him is CG, so he's got like a real head connected to a fake body, and they're like totally detached from each other.
Yeah, like they weren't turning naturally.
Yeah, it was, and now granted, he's mostly robot by that point, but no, even robots, like, have you seen the robots put out by Boston Dynamics? They move more like people than Cyborg did, okay? Do you understand? Robots move like people because we need them to move in a real 3D environment on this planet with this gravity. And
I think the focus was more on him looking cybernetic versus him moving naturally, which you think those things should go together, but I think they missed that.
like, I feel like RoboCop looks better.
I would have been fine with that. I would have been fine with a full, you know, like, hard, factual, if they had made it a Sintra or
Even
whatever.
both RoboCops, like old and 2014 RoboCop. Both of them look better than Cyborg does, and oh man, 2014 RoboCop. But no. So, and the rest of his CG, like, I still don't understand his suit. He looks like he's wearing crystals. I don't understand.
Well, no, I think with Cyborg, the problem with the look of it is it should be warned that they do the same thing they do in Justice League War, the animated movie, here in this movie, where he looks all gnarly for most of the movie, and then at the very end, he looks all smooth in the way he should in the comics, which is a complete another, you know, tease.
Sure.
Because why would you make it harder on yourself?
Right.
Because the smooth version of himself could easily have been done with prosthetics or like some sort of fiberglass or something like that, and I can believe, okay, he's a robot now. He looks like RoboCop, because that's kind of the expectation in my mind. Like, don't reinvent the wheel with his look. You don't even give a reason why he looks like that. Like, you want to say, okay, it's based off the mother box, but the mother box doesn't move or look like crystals or rock.
Right.
So why does he look like that?
I don't know. Didn't make any sense. So, quite frankly, if I had to think about the way the story is being told, because you can get this story in a slightly different format if you were to watch the animated film Justice League War, and that's going to feature slightly different members of the Justice League with slightly different characterizations, but it's essentially the same story. And if I'm to be honest with you, I think that's at least a 1-point grade better than this Justice League.
I think it's more than a
was.
few, because at least at that point they gave the story beats for those characters.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Whereas here it's like you don't hardly feel the threat from anybody yet. Like, yeah, they attacked the Amazons. Yeah, some people were captured, but it was never like, it was very localized. Whereas in Justice League War, or even in the comic book where they get that from with the New 52, they say, oh, this is happening all over the world. This is a worldwide threat. Whereas here it's like, okay, this could eventually be a worldwide threat, but it's not an immediate threat right now.
And Cyborg's better characterized in it. Also, the whole, oh no, my body's reacting to threats around me, and that's happening all throughout Justice League War. In this Justice League film, he has one moment where his body freaks out at Superman because he's like, oh, my self-defense went into whatever, and then it never happens again, even though they get into fights with things that are clearly threats. I don't understand.
Yeah, why was it only Superman that happened with? And even then, I think we could have done with the benefit of, because we only kind of see it once too, of a heads-up display for him, showing what he's seeing and what he's experiencing, which again is something that came across a lot more competently in that animated movie versus here. Overall, though, you can see the rushes, you can see a lot of things. I think, like I was talking with my brother about this yesterday, that there might be courses taught on this movie, like, how do you screw up a movie's editing that bad? Because the narrative, like a lot of people are saying, is very disjointed, mainly because there was a lot of stuff cut. I'm reading up about the scenes that were cut, that, you know, people putting screenshots up on the internet showing, okay, this would have been this moment that would have been fleshed out, there would have been this, that, and the other. And it's like, there's so many different choices and you made a lot of them wrong. And you can say that objectively, like, oh, you're just hating. No, I'm not hating. I'm talking about the movie I watched.
Right.
Because as a movie, I shouldn't have to read more to understand these characters.
Exactly.
It's a visual medium, you know, like we've always said, you should tell me the story on screen. Now, if I needed something from a previous movie and it wasn't there, then you screwed up already going into this. So you're already at a deficit. So as far as this movie is concerned, I think the box office speaks for itself. It made 94, which is lower than projected, but...
I mean, it sounds decent, but
But
I
for a
know
movie of this size,
Warner Brothers wanted more out
they
of it.
needed more, especially for the money that they poured into this thing for reshoots. And the hope is that I guess the hope at this point is that people can have their cake and eat it too. Of we can get another movie after this one, and that they'll understand. Okay, it took you too long to get to the good portions of this movie. Can we get to those and have a whole movie of that?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if they're going to get the lesson. I hope they do, because
I do too.
if you can rightly distinguish what worked about this movie versus what didn't, then yes, you can have an eventual film franchise that people can be happy with.
Well, I hope they earn enough to feel like they can continue with DC films, because it's not like I want the DC superhero franchise to die, it's that I want them to make better movies.
Well, yeah, I don't want it to die. I don't even hate the actors playing it. You know, I think they're doing fine.
For what they're being given.
For what they're being given, exactly. I just hope that they're rightly able to discern what works and what doesn't work, what audiences want, and what moviegoers in general need.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yeah, the fan base can get pretty rabid when it comes to this sort of thing, and you have to rightly discern, okay, what are these things that we need to address, and what are these things we need to ignore? And I think I see some of that in this. So it's by no means perfect, but I think they're finally starting to get it.
Yeah, I hope so. It does, again, it feels like Most Improved Award. Superman feels like he gets Most Improved Character Award because he feels like
he
Superman
laughed,
finally.
he smiled.
He laughed and he smiled, and he was like a decent dude, and he did Superman-y things.
Oh,
so.
I don't want to forget the score. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
bringing in... Because you were talking about this because I told you, you know, Danny Elfman used some...
Sure.
John Williams in there and used some of his own Batman theme. And it feels more like a... Because it's in the movie and you can hear it, but the thing about it is, kind of like complaining about toy movies, the sound balancing was so off. Like, when I could hear it, there was like wind blowing in the background or explosions, so it couldn't really affect me on a deep level. But then again...
But at the same time, if it affected you on a deep level, it's because another movie did that.
Exactly.
Not because this movie earned it.
Right, because 89 Batman I have a deep attachment to. You know, that's why I carry this Batman shirt versus any other symbol, because I love that Batman.
Sure.
Or, you know, John Williams' Superman, you know, I grew up on that movie. But that's because I'm attached to those movies. This Superman only getting this theme now?
Right.
This Batman only getting them now? It's trying to almost elicit a...
It's capitalizing on your memories. It didn't...
It's nostalgia.
It didn't do the work for
No, it didn't, because that music isn't attached to these visuals.
Mm-hmm.
That music is attached to different visuals for people who had their own crystallized vision of what they wanted those characters to be.
But it was only a couple of little stings here and there, and then it was gone. So,
Yeah.
Even then, I feel like it wasn't even utilized correctly in the first place. So,
Yeah.
it's hardly even worth commenting on, but, there it is.
Yeah, there it is. So, overall, is it worth the watch? One?
Matinee?
Matinee, definitely matinee. Don't
Matinee.
pay full price. Movie Pass,
Movie
if you already got
Pass.
that, try that out. I'm not going to advocate piracy, although I won't blame people for thinking that's the way to go. Which is not at all what we were saying about Batman vs. Superman, where it's like, don't give this thing money. But I hope they figure out how to fix it beyond this.
Yes.
Because they tried, and I can see where some people are getting hopeful, but not attributing it to this movie. I can see where after this, you can think, okay, maybe they'll get it right now.
Sure.
Which is a lot better than the feeling I got coming out of Man of Steel, a lot better than the feeling I got coming out of Batman v Superman. Like, they understand something now.
Mm-hmm.
Do they completely understand the characters?
They're getting there. Yeah. Especially with Superman. I absolutely, like, I can't believe I'm not complaining about Superman.
Like, that's that.
Aside
that in
from
and of
his
itself is
upper
a
lip, aside from his upper lip, there's nothing to complain about the Superman.
Like, he saved people.
Except I'm so done with that hairy chest, man. Like, I can't.
Okay, I completely get that.
I can't deal.
I'm not down with that either. The character interactions, we know they're all there in the Batcave, were good, but a little.
But not great.
It was a little stagnant. It didn't flow. Like, it felt like people doing a stage play versus people having an actual conversation.
Sure.
So if they'd worked on that a little bit more, maybe I'd have a little bit more to say about them as the League. They never say the words Justice League together. The word justice is said. I don't think they ever say the word League. So good. You don't have to worry about, hey, they said the title of the movie. But you take the good with the bad, and I understand. Like, I think we both agree we're giving it like a D.
Yeah.
D,
yeah.
high C minus.
Yeah, that's as high as I will push it because
6 out of 10.
Yeah, definitely solid 6 out of 10 for me. Nowhere higher than that.
Because you can try and like I don't understand the people saying, "Oh, this is a cinematic master." No, it's not. This is the definition of hot mess.
They're lucky it came out in a narrative that was mostly understandable.
Yes, absolutely. So where do we go from here? We're gonna have to see. The next week will tell the tale with that second week most likely drop off.
Because what it needs is an Aquaman and a Cyborg film.
Now at least we've got Aquaman coming. They've already finished production. They're in the cutting room right now.
A Flash film would be nice, but even then I feel like somehow they managed to do Flash kind of okay, and he barely had any backstory given on screen, just enough, but he was very understandable for some reason, maybe because he was the most understandable as a human being, period. Like,
I
just
would
felt the
agree
most
with
like
that.
a person. So, maybe that's why. But it would be nice to see a Flash film, but he, I think, can wait out of any of them.
Because he felt the strongest.
Yeah.
So, they've already finished Aquaman, they're committing to Wonder Woman 2. Beyond that, the Batman movie is still up in the air. We're still up in the air about another Man of Steel direct sequel. But basically what we're saying is we don't need another team-up movie right away. We need these solo movies.
Yeah.
We need to better flesh out this universe because leaving it where you left it off isn't going to be enough. And hopefully they have enough foresight into what the future holds for the DC universe that they know, okay, this is where we need to put our focus and not worry so much about trying to make it our former success with all the Nolan movies. Let's make the success we need now.
And then finally we need a Booster Gold film.
TV. We'll bring it back to TV.
Film. Booster Gold.
Okay, you want Booster Gold? All right, fine. We'll talk about that later.
Booster Gold.
Booster Gold. All right. So yeah, those are our thoughts for Justice League. If you guys have already thought of what you think this series needs,
if you guys
let
have
us
already
know.
seen this film and you have thoughts on it, please leave comments down below and we will see them.
Yes.
I can't promise that anything else will happen to them, but they will be there, and so will we.
Yes. So yeah, that's pretty much what we thought. Yeah.
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 Thanks, guys.
All right. Take care.
Peace.